microphone. And then if you're going to start this meeting, I'll turn it over to you, Chair.
Okay, but go ahead. We just let the city, wait, you want me to start the meeting? Is that what you want me to do?
Yeah, we follow the standard meeting practices.
Okay, we'll call the meeting to order. We won't have a quorum today because we only have a few members present. So just,
Yeah, I'm Mark Daly.
Meredith Childs.
Cora Vandervelde.
Lance Knoll.
Jennifer Wersing.
Christine Sylvester.
Okay, we don't have any public comment. We'll just go right to the Arbor Day.
Okay, the Arbor Day is a day in which individuals and groups encouraged to plant trees. In the month of April, many countries observe such a day. Though usually observed in the spring, the dates vary depending on the climate and suitable planting seasons per location. The action requested of the staff requests that the board discuss possible locations and events for the upcoming Arbor Day. The background in 1872, J. Sterling Morton proposed to the Nebraska Board of Agriculture that the special day be set aside for planting trees. And this holiday, called Arbor Day, was first observed with the planting of more than 1 million trees in Nebraska. Arbor Day is observed throughout the nation and the world. In 2021, through a proclamation, Mayor Joe Benetti and Council established that the last Friday of April will be observed as Arbor Day in the city of Coos Bay. This year, the city of Coos Bay will be purchasing 10 trees to be planted in the parks. And the budget for this will be taken for the parks maintenance.
Okay, do we know what kind of trees they are?
Well, we're thinking Douglas fir trees. We were thinking Douglas fir trees. 10 Douglas fir trees in the park.
Okay.
But,
Which part?
well, that's what we're here to discuss.
Anybody have any discussion about it?
Douglas fir doesn't seem like the species I would plant in the park.
No, me neither, but unless we've taken trees out somewheres that,
If it's a, non-recreation zone or aesthetic zone, yeah, but a recreation zone.
Could you remind me to use the green button?
Green button. Green button. Green button when you talk.
It's on. No, it's not on. How about that?
Perfect timing.
Patrick has also joined us online, so you have a quorum.
so we now have a quorum, okay.
We have 5.
Okay, for discussion, I mean, they don't have to be Douglas fir trees, they can be whatever you guys recommend in whatever park that you recommend, that we would like to follow your guys' recommendation.
I have no idea where we can actually
To me,
need them.
that's a Parks Commission thing,
Yeah.
not a tree board thing, but they're the ones that should be managing what's going on in the park. We manage what's going on in streets.
On the streets, yeah. Streets and the right-of-ways. Usually the Parks Commission tells us where they have openings that they would like to plant the trees, and then we say, yes, go ahead and do that.
Sure. I think what we like from this body is just some direction as to, is there any places within the parks that the tree board would like to see trees planted, that the tree species that maybe might be selected would be appropriate in those areas. As far as the Parks Commission, we will be going to the Parks Commission in the April Parks Commission, April Parks Commission meeting with the Arbor Day proclamation and any recommendation from the tree board to get Parks Commission recommendation as well.
Patrick, did you have something you wanted to say?
No, not at this time. I am on the Parks Commission. I'm one of the newly appointed committee members.
So can you give us any insight that you might think where trees might be needed and what kind?
As far as where trees might be needed, I know that there are some recently planted trees around the park. I would imagine we might have to take a field trip and look for spots specifically, make sure they're appropriate. But as far as species, I'm not. I think Rex or will probably be better able to speak on what would be most appropriate.
Yeah, in the past, other Arbor Day events or celebrations that has been conducted by the city, the tree board has provided some locations. I think 2 years ago we planted out at the Empire Boat or East Side Boat Ramp. I think that recommendation came from this body as well. And so we're just looking for some guidance from this body as to locations and species of trees. We definitely can take it to the Parks Commission, the recommendation of this body, to be in concert with the Parks Commission.
I don't have the expertise in the recreation side. I mean, I don't visit many of the parks, the only Mingus. As far as species goes, Douglas fir is more of a forest species and not a ornamental species. So planting Douglas fir by itself in a park, it doesn't seem to be. We have some in Mingus. What's the park out at Empire Lakes is more of a it's not a Doug fir site. It's more of a pine site, shore pine. We planted over at the East Side Boat Ramp. I was there for that plant. It's for me, it's a parks call. What kind of species they would like to see in parks, because parks, we don't have anything. We don't have any database for parks. I don't do anything with parks, so that's kind of outside the realm of what I'm here for.
Okay.
I'm not sure, maybe Patrick will know, but I think, there's a small park out on 10th Street, south of town here?
Yes.
And I haven't been by it in a long time. I know it got some playground equipment, but it had been pretty sparse. So I'm wondering maybe that can handle a shade tree or two somewhere in it. What kind? I don't know. Something that provides some diverse color would be, my opinion, but couldn't tell you what kind. I personally love liquid ambers, but they get those little bird things, so parks probably wouldn't like those. But anyway, that's my thought.
Yeah, I would let the Parks Commission decide where.
Yeah.
I mean, we'll give them approval to be able to plant them, but they can choose the variety and where they think that they're needed. I know that for several years we've planted out at the East Side Boat Ramp. And didn't we plant at the Empire Boat Ramp too?
We planted at the park out of the Empire Lakes. We planted at Empire Lakes, I know, and planted at the East Side. Those are the places I know that we have been involved with.
Yeah, I thought that we had done some plantings at the tree plantings at the Empire Boat Ramp down over the hill there, where that was improved.
Yeah, it's in my time, in my role that I've been involved with this tree board and the Parks Commission, I haven't involved with any plantings at Empire. We planted at Mingus Park last year. We planted several trees last year at various locations throughout the city parks, including Mingus, John Toppitz. I think we planted some at the the Pirate Park that Mark was referring to at South 10th Street. The year before that, we planted trees out at the East Side Boat Ramp. The year before that, we planted trees out at John Toppet's Park. And so we've planted several trees at several different locations since I've been in my role, but not at Empire Boat Ramp.
Okay.
The only place that I saw in Mingus that you could plant some trees is the two big trees that have come out, and I think that I don't even know what that was, behind the old bathrooms, there was the big tree that came out. I think it was a pine, and then there's one up next to the pool that recently they took down. Major rot went through, and those could be replaced, but that's the only place that I can see that you could actually use a conifer.
Okay.
From the parks perspective, I'm one of the new commissioners as well. Reality is 3 of us are brand new. I don't think we've even toured the parks as a group. So to that extent, yes, I don't mind deferring it to us, but flip side of the coin, you folks probably have as much vision and expertise in terms of being in those parks as the 3 of us who are relatively brand new.
Our expertise is street trees. That's what we do mostly.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So of the parks I've visited, very very few. I walk through Mingus all the time, but besides that, I don't. That's not my focus.
I know in years past, I've been on the board since '98, so in years past, usually the Parks Commission is the one that tells us what areas they have open and what kind of plantings they would like to have done, and then we decide if that's appropriate and give them the authority to go ahead and do that. And I'm fine with letting them decide this year what they want to do.
Okay. All right.
And so then would the Parks Commission request the specific trees from the city? I think, is it a total of 10 trees? So it would just be a general request. We want this type of tree, that type of tree.
Well, the last time that we planted out at the East Side Boat Ramp, they were all, if I remember, pear trees.
I think those were oaks.
Were they oaks?
I think they were.
Because I know that there's a section of pear trees that were planted out there.
Yeah, the last time when I was involved I think it was oaks, and they were
'Cause I could say
donated
that
by the fella from North Bend. The name is escaping me right now.
When it was initially redeveloped out there, we came in and did the first planting, and then several years later, we did another planting on Arbor Day.
Well, we're missing our ornamental specialist, and that's
Yes.
Rex.
Yeah.
He would have definite
tell you.
opinions on those, but we don't have him here with us.
Okay.
So, Meredith, you want to make a motion to?
I motion that we allow the Parks Commission to come up with a plan for what they want to plant and where.
Have a motion made?
Second?
Okay, motion made and seconded to allow the Parks Commission to decide where they want to plant and what kind of species of trees they're going to plant. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay, motion carries.
Thank you. Sit down.
Don't think we have, is there anything else before the board today?
No.
No. Discussion?
Any discussion?
Yeah, I saw there was an item there, or if we had discussion among us, or...
Only if people want to make comments.
Sure, well, I'd like to make one. I'd like to consider, at least for the urban renewal area, with the hopes that they might pay for it, is to hire a landscape designer for essentially the business areas within the urban renewal district, which is most of it. I personally, I'm not an expert, but I know what I like and don't like. I find the trees in the downtown area to be somewhat homogeneous. I think there's so much more diversity and aesthetics that could be achieved in the urban renewal district, and I think a landscape designer is probably the kind of person we would need to do that. I mean, we have these big, tall, columnar trees. They're generally not conducive for a lot of the actual businesses taking place. The few kind of ornamental, we group tons of them together, and surely we could get a much prettier outcome than what we're getting, in my opinion. So I would like possibly to ask staff to see if their renewal district would be inclined to do that, and present us with some possible options, and they put it on the agenda for discussion and possible implementation of some sort of plan that way. That's sort of a proposal.
I have comment on that. The tree list that we set and approved has 2 additional sections in it that we have not addressed, nor have we molded over as to what was going to happen with those lists. And those lists, additional lists, have a lot of the trees that we would recommend be used in the urban renewal areas, because they're a little different than the downtown street trees.
Sure. My point would be to have somebody who is skilled at creating a urban aesthetic with a variety of those trees that are approved. It's not that, I don't know, maybe there is expertise here who would be willing to do it for free, but I usually find that an unlikely scenario on the boards I've been on. So that's just my suggestion. I don't know if anybody else feels the same way, but I'd like to examine it and see if it's something that we would want to pursue. I realize, and there seems to be some very serious people about trees on this board, which is great, but at the same time, a lot of what we're doing is within a very urban district, and there's no reason that our tree planting can't accentuate and make our downtown more lively, have more people wanting to be downtown, to participate downtown. And I say downtown, I really mean urban renewal districts. Empire would be included. I'm not suggesting that it's any old tree, because obviously some trees, for a variety of reasons, aren't conducive to a downtown area. They may not survive well, or they may get out of hand, or things like that. And it sounds like this board has some of the expertise to address those problems. But as far as a beauty situation, there are people who that's their careers. They have a track record. We could interview a couple of people. Probably the first step is their renewal district willing to put up the money for something like that? Because I don't even know that we have any kind of real budget for that sort of thing. I would suspect not from seeing the trees I see planted downtown. Anyway, that's just, I've lived here 27 years, had a business downtown. I live on Fifth Street. I'm very familiar with the area as a citizen, and I kind of joined the board as a citizen, and I plant a whole lot of trees myself. I think when I went to get on this board, I counted up, I've planted 52 trees in Coos Bay myself, because I like trees. But my selections are usually pretty diverse, and I don't have the public constraints either on my own properties per se, so I can be more diverse personally, but I suspect we can be more diverse within the street corridors and stuff.
Some of the thoughts on the street corridors was the thought of keeping the same species on a street to maintain a look for a street. So not so much one tree, different species is different species, but a street had a specific look. A lot of the selections are done for growth characteristics. You can't have the spreading trees on a normal street around here because you have to get them up away from, pruning would be an issue. You have to get them up away from the UPS truck that pulls in and doesn't want branches in the side of his truck, etc. Those are some of the thought processes. So we've gone through a lot of those processes when we've selected trees for certain places. But our selections may not be, exactly what you're looking for, and everybody's selections are different.
Well, sure. It sounds like there's a lot of tree expertise involved, but I don't know. I'm not seeing it produce a significant aesthetic quality to our town.
Well,
And personally,
Well, I think some of that
trees are difficult here because we're sitting on a swamp. So everything goes through the concrete into not very productive ground underneath. We have horrific winds here which affect tree tops. You get the lopsided top crowns because of the wind. And then I think it's Hall Street, whatever, there's one street down here that has a significant amount of, believe it or not, sun scald in our small maples. And I'm seeing that multiple places around here. So there's issues with growing trees. Trees grow well around here, but we're trying to plant trees that don't normally grow around here as street trees. You don't want to plant Douglas fir for a street tree around here, for sure. And, the native trees are not specific, they grow well, they grow tall, they grow big. They're not street trees. So we're dealing with ornamentals for street trees. And we're making choices based on limited decision making. If we had, if you were here, when some trees were planted, we might have had different outcomes from that.
well, sure, and I realize there's a process, and I realize that there are specifics to planting street trees. The marsh territories, not everything is marsh around here. Some of the stuff was actually ground. And I'm really not trying to argue those points at all. My overall thing is the outcome is, I don't think you'd have people, tourists coming in and saying, oh boy, was that town beautiful. And I don't see any reason why we can't try to achieve that. I can't do it, but I know like most people, what looks pretty and what doesn't. And to me, it's like a bunch of tall, green, dusty trees, and it's also big clumps of ornamental plums, which I love those. I just don't think half the trees in town need to be that, and half need to be these giant green columnar trees that interfere with businesses, cost maintenance, upkeep on the actual businesses. It's not, to me, it's not all about the tree, because it is a town, it is an urban district, and so those trees need to be, need to be good neighbors to the structures as well, and it doesn't seem like there's much consideration for that. I know with my own building personally, nobody's ever asked me a thing as a building owner. I've been there, I've had that building for 26 years, and nobody's ever asked me about the trees. They just redid the sidewalks, they changed the placement of the trees. Nobody ever asked me as a business person, is that gonna screw up my window displays? The trees that are there, they clog my building for 3 months out of the year with all the leaves dropping on the roofs. Causes roof damage. Now, I'm sure I'm not alone with that. There's a lot of considerations that I don't think that are being given to the building owners or shop owners, but that to me is sort of an aside and a different subject. I would just like it to look prettier because I think it can. And I just say that as a human being who likes trees, and some diversity or some more diversity, I think is totally in order. Did you?
Chair, do you mind if I just jump in about the Empire comment? Earlier this month, council approved an Empire blueprint. Is this board familiar with that document?
No.
Okay, so what they did was they looked at the Newmark corridor within the URA, and they gave options with respect to pedestrian, bicycles, transportation, landscaping. And so they've gone through that effort as about 1.5 to a 2-year effort. And so it was just recently adopted. With that came some code changes. Those code changes are going through the 30-day appeal period. But I think that was the first step for the council and the URA. And now that they have that planning document, now they can take it forward. So to your request, hey, can they look at the landscaping? I think they plan on doing that, but I think they plan on looking at everything holistically. So it's just not the landscaping, it's the transportation and the sidewalks and the, yeah.
Years ago, when Randy Dixon was still the head of Public Works, we did part of that. And some of the trees and stuff that were actually planted out there were not the right species because we had problems with them. So yes, I mean, I think that is the route that it would go on. In fact, that was what I was gonna say. Anytime that there's a new development or a new plan presented, we're kept in the loop as far as what is going to get planted where.
I think that's great. So I guess what I'm hearing is like when there's those major projects that do include landscaping, you'd like staff to bring those to you for some recommendations and comment.
And then,
That's great.
this is kind of off of that subject, but we put together guidelines for how they should be planted. And I think those guidelines have been lost because we did the specific sidewalks things, and those, I'm not sure whether they've gotten out of the contracts or whatever, but we're not seeing those specific planting criteria, as in rebar in sidewalks around the planting spots, and the metal collars that.
That was part of what Rex proposed, I think, wasn't it?
Well, it's been standard.
Right, standard for many years, yes.
For many years, but those things have gone away. And I think it's part of the transition process of the city people that we've dealt with are mostly gone, and we have new people, and those things have been kind of lost.
So those practices on the most recent projects that the city's done have been implemented in the construction projects. For instance, on the fifth, on commercial, we did that project. There was via change order, we added those mechanisms in place. When we did the Anderson sidewalk project over here, that was included in the contract documents.
Didn't you do
So
4th Street out here, back here by the old City Hall?
4th Street out here, that was before I was in my role,
Okay.
so I can't speak to that. We can go back and look at the plans,
Yeah,
I'm not
I
sure.
believe they did, yes.
4th Street had
But
those in them because
Yes.
I've looked at
I'm
them.
Yeah.
pretty positive. My place is on 4th Street. I'm pretty positive.
But on most recent projects, we've implemented those,
Yeah, it's
those
important that those
methodologies
things
back
are
into it.
carried on because those protect our sidewalks from the
upheaval.
upheaval from
The roots.
from the trees as they get older.
So anyway, should I make a motion and nobody wants to pursue
I think it would be great to have a landscape architect look at some of our options.
yeah.
But
And I don't even know if it needs to, I mean, we can talk about that. Does it need to be a landscape architect or a landscape designer? I mean, because I'm looking more for the beauty aspect of it, and I think that's a landscape designer. But then, of course, they would have to coordinate with, the regulations as this
Well,
body sees.
the challenge is that the landscape designer architect would not be familiar with the local conditions that we have, because there are, most of the landscape designers would come from inland, so.
Well,
We have specific issues, but it would be great to have a mix and
Sure.
to
Well,
have different
and
ideas.
we do have some local talent too.
Yep.
But, yeah, I mean, I would, well, and if they're big enough to come from somewhere else to come here, I would hope they would be, understanding that they would have to research the area properly, and if that even means discussing stuff with the board here, then I would hope they would do that. But
We,
anyway.
we can't make a motion on something that's not on the agenda,
No, we can't.
but you can bring it to the next one and put it on the agenda for the next one.
I think that in the past, anytime there's been a project that's been involving redevelopment of a street area, either in the urban renewal area, now that we're getting into that area, or in the downtown corridor area here, it's been brought to the board when, after the planning portion has been done, and it comes to us to say yes or no, we don't like what you've chosen. I know when they replanted or redid one of the water treatment plants down this direction, the landscape architect or landscape designer, I don't remember which it was, came in and gave a plan, and none of the stuff that they chose we're going to grow here.
Well, part of the purpose of the approved list that we approved last year was to create a list so that we can provide that to engineers. So we already have that list of trees that we can select from. We provided that to, when we have a project coming up that we're going to be planting trees, we'll provide that list to the engineers so they can include that, select a tree from that pre-approved list from the tree board. We can include that in the plans. So in essence, that work's already been done. So, yeah, because of the foresight of this body, that work's already been done. Unless this body wants to see each one, we've already done that work. So we're already presenting those trees to those engineers so they can just select from that. So we don't have to bring each individual project to you folks. But we definitely can, but that's why that work has already been done, so we can just select from that
And
list.
there's also flexibility in that plan.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess, and I've noticed there are some areas that get done and it look like they've had somebody, involved in trying to make the aesthetics of the trees decent. But I don't see why we couldn't, moving forward, have some sort of landscape designer, paint the picture, paint the whole picture as it builds. I'm not saying yank a bunch of trees and, I always think it's things like this, if there are changes to be made, that they're made naturally, and because I think that's the most cost-effective way. We aren't here to, spend down the coffers. So I don't, at least I don't want to do that. But so anyway, if we could put it on the agenda,
So just so we're clear, on the agenda item, Mark, just so we capture it, the possibility of hiring a landscape designer by the URA for future development in the downtown area. or areas.
Oh, in urban renewal.
Yeah, in the downtown urban renewal areas.
Yeah, yeah, and maybe it could be somebody, that's put on retainer, because I imagine there's gonna be more active times than not, or, I don't know that it would, I don't know what kind of work is involved in landscape design, so I don't know if that's a full-time thing, or if that's just pick it up as activity picks up type of thing. I guess that's what staff would have to try to find out and present to us, but, anyway.
Okay, anybody else with comments? Okay, I guess we'll adjourn. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.